So, my name is Louis. I am the head of Asia for Startupjunkie. Startupjunkie is technically a entrepreneurial support organization. So we run accelerators and we have funds tied under the brand of Startupjunkie. And as Jungwon was saying, one of the most famous supporters of our organization is the Walton Family Foundation, part of, obviously Walmart. So what we do is we help startups and enterprises work together, and we kind of close the gap between the two entities. I think the most important thing for startups is to gain experience, obviously, with enterprises. We mainly work with B2B startups, so instead of B2C, because of the network that we have with the enterprises in the US, we primarily focus on B2B companies. This is just a little bit about our company background. As a whole, we have about a team of 20, and we've had more than 17 accelerator programs. This is kind of outdated, but our supporters are Walton Family, SBA, Arkansas Economic Development Commission, KITA, and Gangnam-gu, and the KOVA, which is like the Venture Kiopyope. And then we've worked with over like 1,000 different founders. We've had over 200 different alumni companies. And these are some of just the other stats. I'm not actually sure how we keep track of this, but anyways, so pretty impressive numbers. We've helped our portfolio companies have over $1 billion in revenue. We've helped them raise over $250 million in funding. And the cool thing about this one is we've had over almost 4,000 different products launch under our organization. So as Jungwon was saying, so we work with KITA, and we started a POC program back in 2020. So basically, I realized that there was a lot of Korean startups that already had customers like Samsung, LG, Hyundai in Korea, and they wanted to go outside of Korea, but they didn't really know exactly how. And so Startupjunkie originally was only doing programs connecting startups and enterprises in the US. But as I was living here, I realized that there was a need for a lot of these companies to go outside of Korea. And so I proposed a program to KITA, and we were able to launch our first program in 2020. We selected 9 startups, and we also did one last year as well, and we're on track to do one this year for our third one. But here, I guess the cool part about this one is that we identified over 30 different POC opportunities. We actually were able to execute about half of those back in 2020. Last year, the numbers were kind of similar, and then this year, hopefully, we'll be able to do the same. So in the US, we have an offline program called the Fuel Accelerator. So if you guys want to come to Arkansas, which is next to Texas, I don't know if you guys know where that is, but if you guys want to come there, you guys can apply for the Fuel Accelerator program, which is an offline program, or if you want to apply for the online program, which is the US testbed, the US Korea testbed program, that is something that we will be actually accepting applications for this month. So if you guys want to, apply to that, let me know. It's mainly for startups that already have traction in Korea, because American companies or any other enterprises, they usually want to ask you, who are your existing customers and why did they choose you? So therefore, it's good for you to already have traction, which is also another kind of tip. If you want to go into other markets, you should have some use cases in your home country first. So the program, this is kind of just how it works. So we figure out from the enterprises what it is that they're looking for, as well as what it is that they're not looking for. So even just because you're in the same industry, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would be interested in your solution, because maybe they've already tried to test it and it didn't work. So step one is understanding. Our job is to understand what it is that they want so that we can select the startups that match with what it is that they're looking for. And the second step is basically POC development. So it's kind of like sales coaching, sales consulting, but in a little bit of a different way. Basically, the main goal is for you to offer your product or your service to the enterprise in the easiest way possible. So therefore, they don't have to utilize all these resources in order for them to kind of feel or test your product. And it's easier for them to evaluate your product and to also decide whether or not they want to use it. So the most important thing here is customizing a proposal for each type of enterprise that you're targeting so that it's easiest for them to understand what it is that your product is. And then also, like I said earlier, you just want to make it as easiest as it is for them to not have to utilize all the resources that would be normally required in order to kind of do a full product evaluation. Assuming that you guys have a good POC proposal, which we would help you with, they would do the test, right? So we want to break down the testing in phases. Phase one would be like just the product evaluation, right? So basically the specs of your product, if it's the speed, the accuracy, whatever it is, those kinds of details that they could easily kind of compare with the existing tools that they're working with. Step two would be maybe giving them like a free demo or a free trial or something, a very light version for them to be able to kind of experience the product. Assuming all those steps continue to go well, hopefully they would be able to try to onboard your product, maybe buy your product, use your product. Here I say sign and sell. And then once you be able to accomplish that part, obviously, then you're kind of officially launching in the US. So the keys to success, what we've learned since we've been doing these kinds of programs, number one, meeting preparation. So a lot of the times, like business meetups, like one-on-one corporation meetups and things like that, you'll have an opportunity to meet a corporation, but a lot of the times you don't really know why they want to meet you. And so that's very, very important. You want to understand why it is that they are interested in meeting you, so you can customize kind of your presentation or your proposal, for them, right? Because a lot of the times, if you meet, somebody, a corporation or an enterprise, right, at some event, at some networking event, or at some one-on-one meetup event or something like that, a lot of the times, people, co-founders and CEOs, they will pitch their product. And the enterprise, director of innovation or whoever it is will say, this is really, really interesting technology, but what do you want me to do about it, right? So they don't understand how they can kind of integrate that solution into their system. So number two, make it simple, right? You don't need to worry about all the technical details at the beginning. And it's also better for you to save those details for your second meeting, right? So it kind of gives you an excuse, I guess, you could call it an excuse, but it gives you an excuse to have that follow-up meeting, right? And also meet other people on their team to share those technical details about how it actually works. So you want to make it simple at the beginning. And then, so the third one, how can your solution be tested? Like I was saying earlier, you want to provide your solution or your service to the enterprise in the easiest way possible so that they can actually evaluate and experience your product. So instead of doing a full-on POC, pilot trial or anything like that, just try to break it down into steps and take it from there. And then number four, a lot of times when people have meetings with enterprises and things like that, they'll say like, okay, thank you for meeting me, and I'll follow up via email, right? But that's really, actually, it rarely works because you play this game of like cat and mouse. You'll send them an email, a follow-up email, and a lot of times they won't reply. So it's better to understand what it is that you're going to do next when you're meeting them, when you're talking with them. Give them action items like deliverables what it is that they need to do, what it is that you need to do in order to kind of proceed with the relationship. So about us again. So we're not San Francisco based or New York or Boston or anywhere like that. We're based in Arkansas, which is a state next to Texas. Bill Clinton's from Arkansas. I'm from Arkansas. But also Walmart is headquartered in Arkansas, which is the largest company in the world. And because of Walmart's influence there, you have a lot of distribution companies, supply chain companies, a lot of consumer brands. So Nestle, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, those kinds of companies will also have their second largest office in the world in Arkansas because Walmart is their number one customer. And then like consulting companies, accounting companies, advertising companies, Walmart brings a lot of influence into that area. So it's actually a really cool place to be for business because as a startup, it's not as crowded as Silicon Valley or Boston or New York. So you get a little bit more attention than you might if you were in those areas. And it's like a southern state, so I guess people are nicer. I don't know. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, so these are just some of the other brands that are in the area from Northwest Arkansas. So it's kind of an unexpected hub for tech growth, because most of Arkansas is kind of like farmland, but yeah. So just a little bit more about us and the impact of the program, obviously. So for startups, the benefit is like you can test your product overseas. We act as an extension of your team, so we're always there for all the meetings, and we facilitate the relationship as well as kind of the way that you can propose your idea and your business to the enterprises. For enterprises, at the same time, we act as like the middleman, so we lessen the workload for them, and then also at the same time, we're able to give them new technology so that they can innovate as an organization and compare what it is that their existing tools are compared to the new tools. And then for like VCs and portfolio managers, obviously for existing investors that are invested in your startup, they can increase their investment value because if you're able to go overseas, most of the times your value will increase. And at the same time, for new for new investors, if somebody like Walmart says, "Oh, I like your startup and I want to use it," that's a good indication for an investor that your startup might be successful. So it lowers the risk of any future investments. Let's see, just a second. Why is this not working? Right, so like I was saying, invest with confidence, test the product, validate the market, reduce risk, and value growth. These are just some examples of previous startups. These are all Korean startups. DeepBrain AI, I think they've raised like $70 million. But this kind of shows you a good timeline of how they provide their solution so that enterprises can experience it. So it's kind of like a POC timeline. First is POC, feasibility analysis, right? So comparing what the needs are. We would actually probably do this with them. And then the POC part, then you want to evaluate what the POC results were, and then kind of do the rollout. This is another one. So Cvantage is another Korean company. They help forecast ocean cargo shipments better than the normal way that it's done. For them, it's really the testing process is really easy. All you have to do as an enterprise is download kind of the shipping information that you're tracking, plug it into the Cvantage website, and then you can kind of look at all of the forecasts and compare it to what they're already using. So these are just kind of more examples, and I can share this deck with you guys if you need it. And these are just some of the testimonials, right, to show that we actually do what I'm saying we're doing. And then these are just some kind of key things to remember. The most important thing, I think, is that because of our enterprise network, we're able to actually it's mainly relationship based. It's not necessarily like contract based with the relationships that we have with our enterprises. So the enterprises trust us to be able to introduce startups like you guys and help them and test with them as well. So if you guys are interested in going outside of Korea, if you already have sales and traction here in Korea, let me know, and hopefully we can go to the US together. This is my contact information. This is a very old picture, and yeah, thank you for having me.